So before we dive right into the episode, let's watch the trailer for the
Mm,
season two premiere of The Child.
Nice. I'm super excited.
I can imagine.
Next time on
Play
Star
away.
Trek The Next Generation.
Counselor Troy will have her baby in about 36 hours.
News of an alien pregnancy
Pregnant.
alarms the crew.
Something which I can only describe as a presence entered my body.
But this mysterious entity poses deadly threats.
Destroy it now.
Diana Muldaur, Whoopi Goldberg
Whoopi.
join the crew of Star Trek The Next Generation.
Wow. Ooh. Ooh, that looks exciting.
That looks really good.
Yeah. I was wondering when Whoopi was gonna join.
Yeah.
That's all I was saying during season one, baby, was where that Whoopi at?
So we got a good one to get into today.
Feel like I've already seen it.
Increase to full power!
Gives me the creeps. I feel like something's watching us.
Savick, you go right on quoting regulations.
Hello, computer.
I knew I would.
You betrayed your uniform!
Target their cargo hold. Time to take out the garbage.
Smooth as an android's bottom, eh, Data? I beg your pardon, sir. Aspires to be better than I am. Come on, it's gonna be fun. 5 years in space. God help me.
This is the best day of my life!
A phaser? You didn't use it?
Swords are fun.
Program complete. Enter when ready.
Welcome back to another Retrek review, where each week we talk about Star Trek. And this week we're talking about the season 2 premiere of Star Trek The Next Generation, and that episode is entitled The Child.
Sorry, I was running late. I'm here to talk about the child.
So
What?
I got some
Are
bad
we-
news and I got some good news.
Are we not doing the Mandalorian today?
Not today.
Oh.
Bad news is it's not The Mandalorian. The good news is it's Ian Troy.
Uh, mm.
It originally aired November 21st, 1988. It was written by Jaron Summers and John Poville and Maurice Hurley. It was directed by Rob Bowman, who is returning from directing because he has done in the past Where No One Has Gone Before, The Battle, Too Short a Season, Data Lore, and Heart of Glory. The synopsis for The Child is Counselor Troy is shocked to find out she is pregnant. Wesley Crusher is weighing his options for the future with the help of the mysterious proprietor of the ship's lounge, 10 Forward. No mention of viruses. We had some guest appearances this week.
Sure did.
We had Seymour Castle as Hester Delt, a character actor who has been in many, many, many things. That was the medical guy. Whoopi Goldberg as Guinan.
Whoop it.
R.J. Williams as Ian Andrew Troy. Colm Meaney as Transporter Chief.
Mhm.
Dawn Arneman as Miss Gladstone. Zachary Benjamin as young Ian, the littler version of him.
Oh.
And Dor Keller as crewman, who I believe is the crewman going, when the ball comes into his room.
Mm. Sleeping hairy guy.
I believe so. I believe that's who Dor Keller is, but I could be wrong.
What about the puppies?
So They weren't. They were
I'm
not.
surprised that puppies even exist in this timeline, if I'm being honest.
Well, we definitely will touch on it. So that was the intro to the season 2 premiere, The Child. But before we move on to supporters of the channel, let's go over to Caleb and ask Caleb what he thought of the episode.
Like most episodes, there's a lot in this episode that I enjoy. The beginning of it really made me uncomfortable for a while.
Yep, of course it did.
Yeah, that was making me like, oh man, I don't want to watch this. But then by like the middle of it, I was like, oh, I'm actually kind of enjoying this episode. So I'll give it.
Oh,
It's more than a middle of the row for me.
oh,
It's probably it's probably like one peg higher.
oh.
If you can imagine like a peg system. And so I know you have your rating. I know
I
you have
can
your
imagine.
rating. You have your rating system, but if you can imagine like a peg board with the number
Yeah.
like 1 to 10, this would probably be like the peg would be in like a 6.
Okay.
So there.
Perfect.
Make it even more confusing for
Yeah.
everybody.
So then I'll convert your 10 out of
Yeah.
10 peg
I'm just
system.
gonna give you random things
Yeah.
every week. Like, man, I mean, if you had like 8 apples, this would be like a 3 apple easily. And like then you have to transfer that over to yours.
No problem. I'll be like, oh, well, that's easily this.
Oh, that's a Roddenberry for sure.
Well, yeah, 6 out of 10. I mean, that's almost, I mean, that almost sounds like 2 Akudas.
It could be. It sounds too high when you say it like that.
Well, your rating would basically be you liked it and you kind of almost liked it like a lot, but not
Yeah.
enough.
Didn't love it.
Didn't love it, right?
Yeah.
So it's like 1.5 Akuda.
Exactly. Or a 6 in a big board. Where do you put it in like in the season?
In the whole season,
Yeah. Well, yeah, this season.
it's probably, if we don't count, which I don't, if we don't count the season finale, this is absolute bottom rung
The
of,
worst. Wow.
yeah.
It's good to know. So it's only going to get better.
Just looking up from here.
There was all these things that the fan base is like, oh, the show doesn't get good till Riker has a beard and Geordi's the engineer. And then this episode happened, and I was like, but I thought this is when it was supposed to really,
Well,
really
you gotta
kick
remember,
off.
this is when you see it. So when you see it from here.
So from here forward,
Yeah.
nothing but
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah.
Good
Yeah.
to know.
Well, that certainly is an episode of Star Trek. But before we move on to our review of the episode, let's dive into supporters of the channel. So right off the bat, we want to thank Ed Markstar for his Patreon support. We appreciate him help keep the ship afloat and make sure that none of the viruses are breaking out of containment fields.
Didn't stop you from getting the flu last week.
Nope. Still got it. We had one new subscriber to the channel, and that subscriber is Jordan B.
Nice.
So thanks for subscribing, Jordan.
Thank you
We
for subscribing.
appreciate that.
Warrior.
Kapla.
And because Ed Markstar is a Patreon supporter, he gets his comment read during the podcast.
Woo.
So he commented on, what does Caleb think of season 1 of Star Trek The Next Generation?
Mm.
And he says, season 1 of Next Generation does have that search for an identity overall quality. that leaves
Yeah.
open opportunities for new ideas, good and bad. As a result, season 1 episodes can be a hit or miss. As things settle down for cast and crew in season 2, the number of episode hits increase.
Mm.
On behalf of Star Trek fans who were present for the original series in 1966, let me state what an absolute joy it was to have a new Star Trek show in 1987.
That's cool.
After the cancellation of the network original series, Star Trek went into syndication release around the world, generating a whole new fan base greater than anything seen in the 1960s. From 1970 to 1979, Star Trek mania had become a force equal to the craze surrounding Star Wars. In fact, Star Trek Orama hijacked many celebrations of the U.S. bicentennial celebrations of 1976, giving George Washington a run for his money by Captain James T. Kirk.
That's cool.
I remember Star Wars parties from 1977 that were crashed by Trekkies who had to be chased away but threatened to return and in greater numbers.
That's hilarious.
The premiere of Star Trek the Motion Picture in 1979 provided great relief to all of Trekkie Nation worldwide, but also provided the fuel for the push to return Star Trek to television in the 1980s.
Hmm.
Now that the hoopla surrounding season 1 of Next Gen is long over, I will personally never forget the joy that having Star Trek back represented to so many people.
That's cool. I appreciate that. Like, look into
Yeah,
what it was like.
he's a guy who lived it, so yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's cool. I like that. That would have been fun though to like crash parties as Trekkies. That's pretty funny.
And I can kind of understand, like, back then why it would be much more of a Star Trek Star Wars thing, because like Star Trek would be huge
Yeah.
after syndicate after it got canceled and went into syndication like in the early 70s. It was like really huge, and then like in the 70s towards the end Star Wars comes out and it's like, no, Star Trek, it's like that's
Yeah,
the thing we love.
it feels like it always happens though. Like a show gets canceled and then it becomes like super like popular.
Totally.
I mean, how long have they been talking about like, you know, more Firefly? Like our entire lifetime they've been talking about doing more Firefly and it's like it'll never happen now because
Yeah.
it just won't.
What's that you say? Incoming transmission. Well, we'll have to take this to the ship and hear what they have to say.
Captain's Log Supplemental. Today, I learned where babies come from. It starts with a small star infiltrating a starship, finding its way to some unsuspecting woman sleeping at night, and then... Well, I guess I didn't get all of the details, but one thing that I did learn from this transmission is that in this alternate reality, birth is painless, life happens fast, and sometimes death is the only answer. That's pretty messed up. Or maybe the real moral of the story is you just shouldn't have children on starships.
That's pretty good, yeah.
Pretty good.
But what if you put the children in the saucer section?
That's true.
And
That's how you anticipate.
separate. I hope to get one of those every week. So,
Well, no promises every week, but if there's a good one, apparently our podcast will be picking up pirate transmissions.
yeah, I don't recognize that uniform. Must be some alternate Starfleet universe.
It's some future thing. Well, back to us in the lab.
Computer and frequency.
Well, thank you everyone for subscribing, for commenting. We look forward to tackling other comments that we got on our Hailing Frequencies Open series. And we look forward to hearing your other comments as we continue into season 2. So without further ado, let's get into the review.
I saw a spoiler the other day. It's not my fault, it's Paramount's fault.
You think you saw a spoiler, but you didn't.
No, I saw it with my own eyes.
Okay. What do
They
you
were
think that
like,
you saw?
they're like, hey, so you've been watching Next Gen? You want to watch this Next Gen movie? It's got Kirk in it.
Oh.
I was like, oh, I'm not there yet. I have to watch The Child. It's cool. Like I expect to see the cast in this show. I think it's bull crap that it's taken so long to get to see the cast, the old cast.
Sure,
I
yeah.
was I was thinking about that, dude. Not to go on a side tangent, but you would have thought, right? Like you as a fan and me as like a new fan, wouldn't you have, and maybe Ed can comment on this too,
Okay.
going from TOS to next gen, and like he said, this whole season is very much like finding their place, finding their like footing.
Yeah.
Wouldn't the fans have appreciated it more if we had like a lot of the TOS cast kind of like in the first season kind of like send off the crew or, be a part of it for a little bit, kind of pass the torch? I don't
Well,
know. For me, I just feel like so we watched the whole first season and we see Bones,
right.
and that was cool, but it's like it doesn't really serve a purpose to me. It's like, hey, remember this guy? Yeah, yeah, he's old and dead. Don't worry about him.
Yeah.
And it just would have been better to me to just kind of do that stuff in season one, get it out of the way, pass the torch, and then season two can start and it's their, they don't need to find their footing anymore. They already did it. I don't know. That's just me. I'm sure I'm not alone in wishing that TOS cast was in season one.
Yeah. I think generally people wanted to see more of them. Yeah.
I know too, like the show wants to be its own entity apart from TOS. Like that, I get that too. I just feel like you could have done a little bit more fan service.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah.
But I'm just
They,
bitter.
I think a lot of it is if season one was stronger and things
Yeah,
were not as like poorly written, I think you wouldn't be like,
you wouldn't feel
oh,
that way.
right,
Well, and that's the funny thing to me too is that like TOS was brand new. It had nothing to be like compared to other than like a Western in space at the time.
right.
And I guess I don't know. I mean, I can say like, yeah, they found their footing. The crew was great, but like the network obviously didn't think so because they canceled it.
Right.
But I just feel like I was more invested in those characters like way earlier on than
Yes.
than season one of TOS did.
Yep.
And kind of to that point, like now here we are in season two, and it's like, oh yeah, there's a bar in the front of the ship
Yeah.
that everybody hangs out at. Like it's been there the whole time, remember? Like, no, I don't know about any of this cool stuff that you could have showed me all last season.
Yeah. Right. Right. It's like hard. I don't want to open the door to you, but like they don't completely like forget about things
Yeah,
as time goes on. They're not. Well, I mean, the reality of it is Gene Roddenberry gets sicker and then dies, and then other producers and writers are like, "Hey, we should reference TOS."
I know, and that's so weird to me that
Yeah,
like it's Roddenberry's fault that they didn't. Like, wouldn't
correct.
It's so weird. It's like so he has these characters that he creates that he's like fond about these characters, but he's like, nope, we're all done with these characters. Throw them away.
And
You would
then
think that like the creator of the show would be the one like saying like, hey, we got to bring back, and the writer's like, no, no, we're done with those idiots. It's like the other way around than what it usually is, and it's so
right,
weird to me.
right. But then which we will literally get into this episode. Like we'll
Mm,
we'll tackle it. So yeah, so let us know. I mean, let us know people who lived it or feel the same way. Let us know.
yeah, tell me how right I am. It'll amuse me.
It'll amuse me. So we start off the episode and we get a great shot of an Excelsior class ship.
Excelsior. Yeah, that was cool.
That was cool. Then we cut to shuttles in the shuttle bay.
Yeah, wow.
That was cool.
Ooh, the budget was up this episode.
Yep. And then we get a next good shot of Worf in a yellow uniform with his new baldric.
That's right. Yeah, that was cool.
Then we get Riker with a beard.
Yep, that was cool too.
And then Geordi's in yellow too.
I noticed that. That was cool. No big ceremony for that. It was just
Nope.
like, oh, check out what our chief engineer did. And I was like, whoa, new chief engineer this week, huh? And then he was like, oh, yeah, it's you, Jordy. That's cool. And I was like, oh, okay.
So you've met the chief engineer of Star
I
Trek: The
knew
Next
him
Generation.
all along.
Yeah.
I was pretty confidently like that I remembered that Jordy was the
Yeah.
engineer. Like that's kind of what I remembered him as.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was expecting there to be like a, a thing, like a torch passing
But
thing or no.
yeah, so it's always really funny because it's like LeVar Burton is in like I think almost every single episode of Next Generation. And it's like, ah yes, chief engineer. Like, no, for 6 seasons he is, but not for all seven.
No. Not until that ensign replaced him on the bridge.
Right,
Was he
exactly.
the chief engineer?
Exactly. Then we get that classic Riker maneuver over the chair when he sits down
Yeah.
in the ready room. That was pretty good.
That was pretty good, yeah. We got the Riker maneuver and the Picard maneuver a lot this
We
episode, I
did. We
noticed.
did. We did.
I notice like every single time he sits down, he does it.
He pulls his shit. Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought the 3D image on his like ready room thing was pretty neat. That was a good in the opening parts of the show.
Yeah. The containment cube thing was cool too that Jordy was showing off. I
That's what I
enjoyed
mean.
that.
Yeah. That's what I mean. Yeah.
Oh, gotcha. I thought you were talking about like his little computer, like 3D image computer thing had like a little display on it.
Oh, no, no, no. Like he shows like a holographic display of the containment thing. That was cool.
It was cool. I like the actual like clear acrylic one that he was like holding, and
Oh, yes, yes. Yes, yes, yes.
he was actually talking about how it has to like take power away from the main engines to run the replicators for so long to do that. I thought that was like a cool
Yeah.
like like realistic issue that he had to do. I like when things are like
Yeah.
realistic and not just like, oh yeah, I can whip up 40 of these babies in 30 minutes. Like, yeah, but wouldn't that strain the
Yeah. They
so
started to think.
yeah.
They started to think a little bit with the show.
Yeah.
And then we get the famous TOS energy ball alien.
Is it?
I mean, aren't all aliens in TOS just like light sparkling
Oh,
sky?
yes, yes, they are.
Honestly, the thing I liked before the terrible thing happens, I liked seeing all of the crew like walking around, like other. It just felt like the ship was more alive immediately.
Yeah, it fills out the ship, yeah.
We go to Harry's groaning man, and then like the two. Remember the two guys in the hallway where they're like,
Yeah.
"Huh?" They're like, I don't know, that was weird. Let's keep
I
walking.
remember that from the trailer.
Yes, yes. And then there's just no other way to say it, and it's okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I
Yep.
don't really get why they filmed it the way that they filmed it, and also,
Well, they're 100% implying something
yep,
that they didn't really need to imply,
correct, correct,
So there you go. That was cool. And then even so, like when we watched the trailer, she's like, "Oh yeah, I felt something enter me." I
right,
was like, "Oh, okay." So like whatever this thing is, just like went like into her body, like through her like chest, like that we've seen other
right,
aliens do like thousands of
right,
times.
right.
No, no,
No,
no, not that's not what happened.
nothing like starting off a show with being sexually assaulted.
Yep.
It was like,
Pretty good. She does a lot of
yep,
weird moaning in this episode, I
yes,
noticed.
yes, she does. She
For the
certainly.
fanboys. And it would have been fine, like to do that during childbirth, but then she's like, "Oh, how much pain are you?" And she's like, "Oh, I'm in no pain." I was like, "Oh God. Oh God. Make it stop. Make it
Make
stop."
it stop. So intro happens. We come back. They mention Dr. Pulaski in 10 forward. We don't see him yet, but
Yeah.
they do drop him.
Yeah. So they do this thing like, "Oh my God, she's only been here for 2 hours and she's already in 10 forward." And I was just like, hey, I don't know what this is. I have never heard about 10 forward before.
Yeah, you're
And
like,
then it's like, oh, it's a bar. And then she's like, "Hey, Captain, you better sit down. Deanna's got some serious stuff that she came to me to talk to me in the open bar about, not the medical lab where she would
no.
have freeness of, No, she told me here
Yeah.
in the bar.
Well, this is the thing that's really weird too, is
She's
like
pregnant and she's been knocking them back, baby." Like, there's a lot going on here already.
the thing that's really weird, and they get into it later in that scene, but we can just talk about it now, is so she's clearly sitting in 10 forward and they're discussing it. They're clearly discussing what's going on because Pulaski is like, "Okay, Picard,
Yeah.
like you need to listen to this."
Yeah.
They immediately cut to them in the observation lounge, right?
Mm-hmm.
They come in. That's what Picard is waiting for. He's waiting for her to come up so that they can start this thing.
Yeah, it's everything about this is so stupid and weird to me.
She then comes in, and then they're talking about it. And I don't want to skip around. I'm not skipping anything because there's stuff I need to talk about before this. But
Yeah.
she ends up talking about how Troy came to her and then spent hours like scanning her and like watching over her and
Yeah.
getting all of these readings from her.
And then they
So
went to the
basically,
bar.
right. So basically,
So
she came
stupid.
in. What you're supposed to believe is Troy came out of her quarters at really early in the morning because, like, Picard says he's going to relieve him at like 3 o'clock in the morning or something like that.
Yeah.
So she comes out of her quarters really late at night, goes in. Pulaski's there. She tells her something doesn't feel right. They scan her. They see that she's pregnant. They wait like an hour. She scans her again. They see that the baby's grown,
Even more pregnant.
and she's like, "Whoa, this is crazy." And then they go to the 10 Forest lounge and
And wait for
openly,
Picard to come down. Yeah.
right, and like just openly talk about what's going on. Like that's
Also,
literally what they set up.
it also implies that she came on board the ship, the doctor came on board the ship
Yeah.
and just like didn't check in with the captain, didn't
Yes.
check into her station, just
Right.
ran into like Deanna immediately and was like, "Oh, well, I gotta do this."
Right. Right. Exactly.
It's like, no, but shouldn't you like, check in that you're there?
Yep.
Obviously, there's like a board meeting when you get on. Yeah, it's just like
Yeah.
they
There's
just
I.
ignored all that stuff.
So that's what I talk about. Yeah. So before we get to that part, we get a better close up of Worf. I thought it was nicer that his appearance was nicer. He's got straighter eyebrows. His hair on the back of his head is better shaped, and his cranial
He
mold
did
is
look
like
better.
better designed. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I think everybody for the most part looks better in this.
Yeah, I think
I
so
enjoy
too.
everybody's new look. I really like Wesley's uniform, if I'm being honest.
Yep, the gray is 1,000 times
It's
better than.
it's really good,
Yep.
it's cool. It's also very crazy to me that we start this episode and it's just like, oh yeah, Beverly, she's gone. She's not
Yep.
on the ship anymore.
Yep. So I'll let the
Okay.
cat out of the bag so you don't wonder. Yeah, Gates McFadden is not in season 2
At all, huh?
at all.
Wow.
We'll get into that.
But does she comes back though?
She does come back.
Okay.
Yes.
Because I know people talk about her and like Picard's relationship and that's a thing, but honestly, after this episode, I was just like, okay, so like season one is what people base that on because this is weird.
No, no. Yeah. No reason to keep you like in the dark about that. So they basically write her off that she is now the head of Starfleet Medical.
Cool.
So the way I've always interpreted it was the Paris episode really ticked her off, and when they offered her a position on Earth, she took it.
I can't even be around Picard anymore. All he wants to do is smooch in Paris.
Then we get what we're talking about. We get 10 forward. So what did you think about 10 forward and essentially Guinan?
I like 10 forward and I like Guinan. I like her character. She does more psychiatry than Deanna has ever done, so that's right off the bat pretty
That's true.
cool. You
That's
know,
true. Yeah.
I just enjoy that there is a psychiatrist on board and everybody goes and talks to the bartender. That's what I like.
Yep.
So
Makes sense.
pretty good. Yeah, it's a cool place to hang out. I would totally hang out in there and have drinks by that like front window. That's pretty sweet.
It was pretty sweet.
It immediately made me want to like add a sign or something in the basement that's like
10
has like a
forward.
directional like 10 forward, you know.
Yep.
So
Yep.
maybe look forward to that at some point.
So the doors in Conspiracy that Remick like walks in and out of that are like
Mm.
brown kind of wooden doors with the circulars and they have like this delta in
Oh,
the windows. They
yes.
end up
Same
reusing those for
same doors.
yeah.
That's cool.
We get to see here in this scene also Dr. Pulaski for the first time. So
I enjoy her too, if I'm being honest.
okay.
I don't know where she sits with fans,
Uh,
but
yeah.
Beverly is kind of like a no nonsense, doesn't take any guff from anybody, and I feel like so is this doctor. Like she's not intimidated by Picard or stuff,
Right. True.
which I enjoy. Because Picard comes into that meeting pretty hot, like,
Yes,
what are
he
you doing in
does.
here? And he's like, hey, you must be Picard. I take a seat. They're like, oh, I like this lady.
Yeah, so they have their little discussion. We come back to the lounge part. Now, here's the part I was talking about. So I found it really funny that Riker is like being kind and extends his hand, like extends for a handshake. And like as him and Pulaski are starting to shake, Picard is like, "We will go have formal introductions later." And then Riker's
Yeah,
like, "Oh."
it's so weird. I know.
The thing that makes me
We'll
laugh.
have time for that later. Anyway, Deanna's pregnant.
Yeah, well, this is the part that
Oh,
cracked me up in the episode.
wow.
Picard
Getting
is
right
like,
into it.
so Troy is pregnant, and then they're all like, "What?"
Yeah, like what? Yeah.
And then he's like, "So
So
that
we're gonna
means-"
kill it or
no, not that far yet. He goes, he,
oh,
he goes, he's like, "Yeah, so she's pregnant." And they're all like, "What?" And they're all like kind of looking around, and then she's like, "So Counselor Troy is gonna have a baby," and then they're like turning like, and then Riker's like, "A baby?" And I was like, that's what pregnant means.
yeah. Like that was just some mystery word that he was. Yeah.
Like, what do you mean she's
This
pregnant? What does that mean?
this whole scene, to me is when I was like, all right, I'm kind of
Oh yeah,
done with this episode, honestly.
this scene, like it's literally her getting whatever, right? Like that thing with the blanket is terrible,
Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
it's this scene, and it's equally
Yeah.
terrible, and then it's like the rest of the episode is like, then there's one more scene that's terrible, and then the rest of it is like passable.
The whole beginning of this episode is awkward. That's how I would describe it. It's just uncomfortable. This scene, the beginning blanket scene, even the scene with Wesley and Picard in the elevator, I was
Yeah,
just like, this is so like I feel so weird in this scene.
yes,
They just like stand there.
yeah,
It's like, oh my God.
because they want you to show that Picard is awkward with children.
Yeah, but Wesley doesn't do any favors in that scene.
No, he doesn't. He really doesn't.
He's
So
like,
we,
so what do you want to talk about? And he's like, oh, no, not anything.
yeah,
I'm hinting at the fact that I have to leave the Enterprise soon because my mom isn't here anymore, which means I also have to leave. And he's like,
oh
yep,
well,
yep, that's how life works, Wesley. I know that's how life is, but there's nothing like the Enterprise. Like, yep, that's for sure, Wesley. Anyway, Deanna's pregnant. I have to go.
yeah.
It was like, oh man, this is weird.
So, like we were saying, Data and Riker.
Data.
No. Data and Riker didn't speak to the doctor for hours, apparently. That was kind of weird.
No, again, because she came in, she went right to the bar. She
Yeah.
didn't talk to anybody. She didn't meet any of the crew. Nothing.
Yeah, and I give Worf a pass because he's antisocial. So it's
Well,
like,
what is he? He doesn't care. He's
no.
not going to need medical.
So this is the part that, again, was just like painful. Was so Troy is clearly like distressed and distant, right? She sits at like the farthest end of
Yeah.
of the lounge as possible.
But get it? Because she's the one that can feel emotions and nobody else understands anybody's feelings ever.
Right. And they can't pick up on it. The
Nope.
doctor proceeds to explain a basically impossible gestation period for betazoids, right?
Yep.
She's going to have a baby in 36 hours. And then Riker's like, okay, like I don't want to be a jerk here, but like
Yeah.
who did it? Who knocked you up? And I was just like, yeah,
Hey,
that's
moron.
totally the thing to
Yeah.
focus on,
And
dude.
also, like, hey, idiot. Well, they've already explained that it's an alien. Okay, we already, it
Yeah.
wasn't like they hadn't explained. They already explained that, like, hey, this thing is like really weird. Something happened to Deanna, and it's growing really fast, unnormally fast. And he's like, whose is it? It's not normal, idiot. Like it's not a normal thing. Okay. She
Oh,
became pregnant last night. Remember we just said that? She became pregnant like three
yeah.
hours ago. And he's like, yeah, but who did it?
Yeah. Who you
Who
sleeping with?
who did you? I was like, oh my God. And then it was like, so that happened. I was just like, I rolled my eyes so hard. And then
Yeah.
it just gets worse,
Oh
and
yeah.
worse, worse.
Worf
Worf's
is
like, we
like
should eat it.
yeah.
Like, oh, please, please
Yeah.
make
Worf
it,
is like,
make it.
let's kill
And
it. And Data's like, well.
Captain, I say we rip it out and eat it,
And then
or whatever
Data's
your
like,
Earth customs are.
well, I don't think we should rip it out and eat it. Perhaps we should see what happens. And
I
I was
do
just
think
like, but
we should
nobody's
murder it.
talking to Deanna.
Why would you talk to her? What does she have to do with it? This is a security issue, okay? We got this alien that's about to be birthed. Are we gonna phase it or are we gonna launch it into space? Those are the two
Right.
questions on the table.
That's it. Right. Yeah.
Pretend like she's not even here.
and then I like it because then they had to make like a defiant thing, and I wrote it funny in my notes was, they cut to Deanna and she's like the Madonna song, I'm keeping my baby. And I was just like, oh, okay.
Picard don't preach. Keeping the baby. Yeah, it was like, oh hey. That's probably the only good part about this scene is when Picard's like, well, that table's the discussion. No more
Yeah,
discussion.
true.
He's like, okay, well, good for you to be like, hey, so that's it, right?
uh just was so messy. Just
So
so
bad.
messy.
It's so bad. I understand, and here's the thing. It always comes down to I understand the issue.
Yes.
It's an interesting issue.
Yes, it is an interesting.
There is an alien entity gestating inside Deanna. That is a security issue on
That's a
board.
problem.
Totally get it, right? But to sit in that room and talk like she's not even there about
Right.
what you're going to do with this unborn entity,
Yes.
you lost me. I get like Worf and security being there later on,
Right. Oh, right. Yeah.
But
Totally.
it was like, what do you expect? They have the image on the screen of what it looks. It's not like this horrible creature. It's
Right.
just a normal baby.
Right.
And then, even later on when like she has the baby, Worf's just like, I guess it's normal.
Yeah.
Nobody shoot the baby.
It looks beautiful, so I can't kill it.
Call me when it starts eating people.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Yeah, that's a bad scene.
It's
a
really
real
bad.
It's real bad, real messy, real just, real 80s.
It is yeah, that's exactly what it is. It is real 80s. So we come back from that commercial break and then we get to see the like medical guy in that hazmat suit.
Oh yeah, I did like that. That was a cool callback to like TOS
Yeah,
style, like awful suits that wouldn't actually do anything.
it's pretty cool.
Now, here's another awkward thing. It might be during this.
Okay.
Is or is that not the other chief engineer that we've seen before? Now he's just an engineer.
Oh, Argyle? It didn't say Biff Yeager was in the episode, so I don't know.
So the transport guy,
You're talking about the guy in the transporter room with Data.
yes.
That guy was
He
in the
kind of
he
he
was in the
kind of
season
looks.
1 premiere, and he sat at the helm of the battle bridge, and he was in a red shirt.
So, okay, so Miles O'Brien,
Yes,
he's the transporter guy.
he's the transporter chief,
Okay.
and he
Mm.
was in a couple other episodes too, like as something else. But yeah, now he's there as transporter chief. I thought it was really funny. So the guy in the hazmat, he's on the screen. He's in the hazmat suit and he's talking. And he's like, "Yeah, so we'll take care of it and everything will be all right, okay?" And then they just cut him off. And I was like, "What did Picard give him the thumbs up?" And then they like disconnected the thing. Like he does nobody responds to him.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll send those over when I get a chance, all right?
I thought it was an interesting angle to talk to Data over Picard's shoulder through the horseshoe crab like console thing.
Oh, yeah.
I don't
It's
know if
always
they
funny to me that the main view screen is like, hey, this is what's outside. And then when
Hmm.
you like calm people, it's like, all right, so the whole screen now is that person's face.
Yes, yeah.
And then it like disappears. It's like, oh God, an asteroid. It's just like it's so funny that it like takes up the whole screen and then it's like disappears and like, oh, space. Oh my God. It's funny to me.
So we go down to Pulaski in Medical Bay, and Data's, joining Troy
Hmm.
for the delivery. And I was like, I laughed at Pulaski's like, "You want security in here for a delivery?" I was like, What? Like, hey, doctor, did you remember that it's an alien who sexually assaulted and impregnated this officer? Like,
No.
eh,
But
did
it's
did you forget? Like,
but
that's the,
childbirth is beautiful no matter the species, Will.
and I was like, I think you're missing something, doctor.
Yeah. Yeah. There's
Yeah.
a lot of things. There's a lot of things about the this whole thing. It's just like because then even like later when like Worf comes in, she's like, "Hey, like I understand why you're here. Like it makes a lot of sense, but like don't come in the room." It's like,
Yes.
but you just were like upset about that they were coming in the room.
So this
Oh,
is the
like,
point where I would talk about Pulaski hates androids,
hmm.
right? She's clearly like can't stand Data.
Yeah, she's been
Definitely,
around a lot of androids, so she knows.
but this definitely isn't McCoy hating Spock, right?
No,
No,
no, we're done. We're done with that.
no, we would never compare those two.
No, like you said before, the only good written characters are the ones that mimic the original TOS
Yeah,
characters. So
exactly.
couldn't. We're not doing that again. Will we're done with
No,
we're done
we
with
would
that.
never.
Mm-mm. Obviously, a doctor doesn't like a cold, calculated robot man. It's in their very bones.
Ooh,
Oh, that's a good one. I don't know though. I kind of enjoy that
that,
scene a little
okay,
bit.
fair
I
enough.
enjoy like her calling him Data.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Later, right? Yeah.
Yeah. But what does she say in this scene? She's like, "Oh, you don't want like a cold
Yes.
robot hand inside you."
Right, right.
She's like, "No, that's fine. Like I prefer Data to be."
Right, because like she doesn't again, nobody asks Troy what she wants. They
Yeah.
just all talk
Again,
for
everybody
her.
making decisions for her.
Right. She's like, no, it's okay. Like Data's my friend. I don't. It's okay.
Whatever you want. And then I guess, jeez.
Yeah.
Like she was like so disgusted by it.
Yep. And then I thought it was really weird that Pulaski is like, listen, I know you might think that painkillers would dampen the experience for you, but don't worry, they won't, and you'll be able to enjoy the entire experience.
Yeah,
And I
said no
was
one
like,
ever.
What? Like, oh, I don't even mean necessarily like that somebody might want to have the full true experience of child labor and birth. That's not even that. It's just the fact
Yeah,
that
she's made no acknowledgement of like
like
I want to do this without drugs.
that, and also the fact that like this is an alien
Yeah.
growing inside of Deanna.
It's like they took when she made the stand in the room to be like, "Hey, I'm keeping it no matter what." They took that as like, huh, "Well, this is a very normal childbirth then. Let's run through
Right.
the procedures."
Right. Right. Uh,
There's a lot of weird stuff.
it was really
Weird
stupid.
stuff.
I
Yeah.
really didn't like it. Then immediately she gets no privacy because everybody comes into the room. Her legs are all up in the air and they all come walking in. It's like I know Riker being there was supposed to be like endearing to their two characters, but it just played off as creepy because he was just like standing over the thing and like staring. It was just like,
Yeah.
dude,
Yeah.
this isn't like time to be like, oh wow, the woman I love is giving birth and it's not me and I wish it was me. It's like, oh my God, what is even happening? Like that's what should be happening in the scene. Instead, they treat it as if Deanna is
The
having a baby.
miracles of
Right.
human creation.
Uh,
And she's like, "Oh, were you here the whole time?" Like, "Oh, yeah." Like, "Oh, yeah, I was over there watching in the corner."
yep.
He's so beautiful.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, oh,
And then I love, like you said, Worf comes over. She's like, yeah, idiots. It's just a baby
yeah,
alien.
moron. Just a
Idiots.
baby alien, idiot.
It was, oh, okay.
You can stand down, Worf. It's just a child alien that we know nothing about. We don't know what it's here, why it's doing this, why it
Yep.
assaulted a woman. Nobody knows. These questions don't matter. Okay? They don't matter.
Moron.
Moron. Deanna just gave birth to the next chief engineer. He'll be chief engineer in 3 days.
Just give him some time. So then she says this line later that the baby is a day old, which means
Yeah.
24 hours pass and Picard doesn't check on Troy at all.
Nah. He's too busy.
Yeah, telling everybody else what to do, right?
He's got to sit on the bridge and be like, "Hey, did you get those diseases on board yet?" And he's like, "Hey, we're still working." He's like, "All right. Well, let me
Okay,
know
now
when you get those diseases on board."
they're like, hey, did you get those diseases on board? They're like, we're still working on it. All right. Data, can you go
Well, that
check
means,
on to Counselor Troy?
yeah. Check by engineering, see if those diseases are on board.
But then
Oh.
the thing that made even less sense to me, Picard and Pulaski go to Troy's room. They go in. They're like, "Hello, counselor.
We're
How
here to
are
meet you.
you?" And it was like, "Oh, because he's whatever 4 years old in appearance."
Yeah.
The doctor was like, "Oh my God, this is an
Jeez.
alien."
Oh my God.
I was like, "Where was this
Yeah.
the whole time?"
Apparently this entity also causes memory, like short-term memory loss or something.
It's like she saw in the scans that this baby grew. Like it went from 1 week old, even though she had been whatever in 11 hours. It was like the first scan showed it was a week old, and then I forget what the second scan showed. It was like 3 months or something like that. I don't remember, but
So they establish in that scene too, like right now it's like 4 weeks old. And she
right,
said we can expect within the next 36 hours for him to be born, which is a normal 10-month
right,
period. So
right,
they
right,
establishing that basically 40 hours
right,
is 10 months.
right, basically.
And then, but then in 20 hours he's 4. So it's like don't establish the math and then immediately change it. You
Right.
know, like that school teacher should not have been able to see him like physically grow while he was
No.
there.
Right.
You know,
It does make you think that perhaps the alien thing, is like forcing himself to like grow faster. But
yeah,
I totally agree with you.
it's just like, well, and that's the thing. It's like, well, it's an alien. Okay, so don't explain it then. You know, just make it like, well, isn't that crazy? You know, if you didn't give me the hour time frame, I would have been fine. You know, like don't
I
give me
totally,
that time
I,
frame.
I totally agree.
Because then when they
Well,
come in the room and they see that he's four, we've been like, oh, well, wow, this thing's growing pretty fast. Like I understand that as the audience. Like, wow, yeah, that's quick. I know how babies work.
I just thought the entire time Picard had like the perfect reaction to it. Like his reaction throughout the entire time he's told that she's pregnant, that she's
Yeah.
giving birth, that she's going to not kill the alien and like let it live out, and then he goes to see her in the room and he sees the child look like a 4-year-old. He has like the perfect reaction to all of it. Well, here's the doctor is like, what's the big deal? Like Deanna's having a baby. Like, well, I don't get over yourself, idiots. And then she sees that this thing is now looking like a 4-year-old, and she's like, "Oh my God, what is this thing?" Oh, okay,
Yeah,
doc.
yeah.
So this is the halfway point. So go down to
The-
the comment section and write "baby."
Ba 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 ba. Say, go in the comments section and say, we're here to say hello to the ba 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 ba.
Ba, ba, ba.
That's so funny to me. I know that's not really what he says, but
No,
man,
but
that's
it's
funny.
funny. It is what basically happened.
'Cause that's basically, and that's the thing for me in most episodes is that like it's just bad writing choices,
Yes.
like dialogue, bad dialogue writing can
Yeah.
make or break a thing, you know?
Yep. So
Be scared, Picard. I forgot that I have that little thing just popped into my brain. Don't be afraid. This is totally normal.
yes.
Hello, Ian.
Please don't worry. Everything is okay.
I'll be your chief engineer tomorrow.
Totally wasn't terrifying at all. No.
Is this hot? Oh! Don't be scared, Picard.
Don't be scared. Don't be scared.
It was oh man, that was weird. that was weird.
Yeah.
Was weird.
But again, Picard has like a perfect reaction to it. He's just like staring at it, like, "Oh my
Jesus.
God." Then we get the scene we were talking about where Data and Pulaski are standing there, and she's like, "Data," and he's like, no, sorry, it's Data." And she's like, "What?" He's like, "Sorry, you said my name. You said Data was my name. My name's Data." And she's like, "Oh wow, I don't care. I love being a jerk about it, and I don't care anything about it. Oh, but you being offended, that's amazing." And he was like,
Yeah.
"Oh wow," and I was like, "Cool, cool."
Yeah, pretty funny. I enjoy that scene because I like for majority of season one called him Data.
No, that's fine. That doesn't matter.
And I was like I felt it was like what's the difference? It's the same. It's just how you pronounce it. It's the same word.
Yes.
But I like him being like, well, because one is my name and one's not my name.
Right.
She's like, whatever.
They said basically what happened was they wrote out the script, and Brett Spiner was looking at it, and he was like, "Okay, I'm an android. My name's Data. Got it. Whatever." They go onto the set. They're getting makeup on. They're doing all their stuff, or maybe they weren't even doing filming yet. Maybe they're at like a table read. But basically, they were doing something, and the full cast was there, and Patrick Stewart was there, and they got to the part where Picard is like saying his name, and Patrick Stewart says Data, like how a British person says it.
Yeah.
And it was like, oh, and Brett Spiner and a couple other people were like, oh, is that how that's how it's gonna go? And it just became kind of like Star Trek rule that the first person to say it in the episode is like that's how you pronounce that person's name.
Yeah.
Totally thought it was a great idea to let the rapidly aging child play with other children and puppies. That was a great idea.
Yeah, just parade him around the ship, let him experience the whole ship, you know.
Yeah. We don't know what this thing does, but let him be with other kids.
Doesn't matter. Let him learn our weaknesses.
Yeah.
Have you played with puppies, Picard?
Yeah.
Oh, we should go. We should go
He's
play
like-
with puppies right now.
He's like, no, I don't think I have.
I don't think I've ever seen a dog or a puppy.
And I was like,
Like,
what?
huh?
You've never played with puppies, Picard?
Have you been to Paris?
It was such a weird thing for them to write that Picard has never played with a puppy. Like,
No, I've never experienced the love of a puppy.
right before that happens, you get to hear, you don't really get to see, but you get to hear Troy use the replicator in the room, which was cool.
Yeah. I made you soup and juice.
Yeah. And then he jams his finger in, and then she's like,
Ouch, help, mommy!
then Pulaski's like, oh crap, this thing's an alien. Like, yes, yes, it is.
He did that on purpose, just to see how it feels. That probably won't come back to bite us.
And then it gets, yeah. And then it gets even more creepier because then they're like, so why are you here? And he's like, to have dinner or whatever he says. And they're like, no, like, why are you here? And he's like, I don't get what. And she's like, Ian, I think what they're saying is that they would like for you to explain to them why you're with us for here. And he's like, no.
No, not now.
And it was like, oh no,
It was like,
he's self-aware.
It's not time yet.
Yeah, exactly.
He goes from like that to being like, oh, I'm here to eat dinner. I'm here because I live here.
Right.
To like later on being like, it's me. That's all my fault. I have to go now, mommy.
Yep. Yeah.
Do you feel like here's a touchy question. I get like the instincts of like mothers. Do you feel like Deanna was way too
Yes.
caring?
Yes.
I understand like she's a betazoid too, which gives her a higher emotions. But I just feel like the writers are like, well, she's a mom. She's gonna love this thing. And it's like, okay, but again, remember, she was unwillingly pregnated, right?
Right.
It's an alien child inside her. It's not like a great thing.
Right.
And she's like almost like very protective of him all the time.
Right.
Like, oh, come on, sweetheart. And it was like, this feels weird. This feels so weird to me.
It's super weird.
This episode, I'm just going to call it, this episode should have just been called Uncomfortable.
I wholeheartedly think what they should have done, and I think it would have been played a lot better. And I'd been more like, oh, geez, and had a better, stronger ending. Let all that play out. Let it all play out how it plays out, right? It's terrible. It's uncomfortable. It's awkward. It's all this real gross stuff. And then at the very end, Ian is like, goodbye, mother. He like fades away. I think what they should have said was when he came in that he did something to her, like gave her a whole bunch of like whatever, like endorphins or something, and made her like love raising this child. And then when he's gone at the end of it, she's like horrified.
Oh my God.
Right.
Yeah.
I think that that's how they should have ended the episode rather than it being like what you're saying. And what they suggest is that like Troy has a baby and it's amazing.
Yeah, she loves it. Now she wants kids in the future. She's crying over it. It's just a typical Star Trek thing, though, where it's like, well, this is an alien, and it wanted to experience what humanity is like, and he didn't mean any harm. It's like,
Right.
okay, so whatever. But it's also one of these A plot, B plots that's like just so happens that this happened on the same day
Yes. Yeah.
that this alien came on board, and he irradiates this kind of a radiation that's really bad, but
Yep.
it's not bad for people around him
No.
or Deanna, who had him inside her for a day and a
No.
half, or
No.
no, but it makes that disease the other end of the ship that it grows because the radiation's really high in engineering, but it's fine.
Right.
Nah.
No problems. But I did think that the outside shot looking into 10 forward was cool. With Wesley standing there,
Mm-hmm.
and was likely like super difficult to pull off so that they didn't see the camera in the glass or any of those things. I thought
Yeah,
that was pretty
that
cool.
was good. It was good. I like when they warp out too. I like the
Oh
visual first
yes.
person warp. I thought that was cool.
I also
Whoopi
like.
Goldberg,
Go ahead.
her character, you know what her character reminds me of in the scene is the innkeeper from Young Frankenstein,
Oh okay.
where they're all going to bed and she's like, a glass of warm milk before
Oh
bed. And
yes.
he's like, no, no thanks. Ovaltine. I said no. Tea, perhaps? No, thank you. Good night. Yeah.
Yes. 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 That's
She just
very
kept
true.
asking if he wanted, like, you know,
Yeah.
and he's like, no, I'm
No.
in this bar to look out the window.
Right.
It's like, well, that's my job is to offer drinks when I don't want to. Do you have anything, Wesley, that you have to do that you don't want to do? Well, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, I have to leave this ship. Oh. That's kind of like when I hand out drinks. And no, it's just funny. That's just what it reminded me of. But
Yeah.
I do kind of like this scene, like of
It's not a
I
terrible thing. Yeah.
yeah, it's not bad. I'm kind of picking on it, but
No, it
I
is
don't
totally
mean to.
funny that it is very much like that scene from Young Frankenstein. Very much.
But I enjoy their interaction together.
Yeah.
I actually enjoy Wesley this episode.
Yep.
I like that he's making this decision. Like, this is my future. This is what I want to do. I like his interaction with Picard, and we'll
Yeah.
get to it. But I really like the ending. But
The ending, yeah, the ending is
yeah,
pretty decent. Yeah.
it totally makes me forget about all the assault stuff and everything. And
Washes the mind. It washes the mind. I also thought too
I.
that scene, the lighting changes in the room, right? As the ship is turning,
Mm-hmm.
they go from like being in shadow to like being in light.
Yeah, it's
Just a cool
cool.
touch.
The only flaw that I'd noticed is when Deanna shuts the blind on the window over Ian, the blind kind of comes down to cover the window.
Yeah.
You can still see like the star projection on top
Oh,
as it shuts.
that's funny.
Because like at that time period, they didn't have the ability to like crop the stars like out as the blind. They just like lower the opacity and you can like see it, and then like when it closes, it disappears. So almost
That's
like they
funny.
projected like the star map like over top of the footage, like
Yeah,
digitally. Because I don't think it's supposed to be like the reflection, because that doesn't make any sense. But
true. I thought the cut from they're like, oh my God, this virus is starting to grow and we're all going to die and there's nothing we can do about it. And they're like, oh, so let's see what Wesley and Guinan are doing at the bar at 10 forward. I was just like, and he's like, thanks so much, Guinan, for all your help.
this sure was good soup.
Yeah, right. And then they're like, Ensign Crusher, report to it's like, it was just really funny. This hard
Yeah,
cut into like them just hanging out in 10 forward.
it was funny. And then like even to like double down further on that, it's like Ian like dies.
Yeah, yes, yes.
And she's like, "Oh my god, oh my god!" And she calls the doctor, and they all like run up there, and it was just like,
Yeah.
what were they all doing? Were they all just like, let's go check, let's go see what's going on here? And
Yeah.
Data's like, "Yep, yep, he's the source."
He's the problem.
This is like, oh, shouldn't you guys have all been like in engineering?
Nope. Nope. Well, before we conclude the review, I think it's time for trivia.
Oh, not again.
All right, now you're overacting.
So, in response to the success of the first season, Paramount Television increased the budget per episode for the show
Wow.
and also changed the financial structure so that funds could be carried over from episode to episode.
Cool. So they raised it from $50 to $100 per episode.
Yes.
Nice.
And then if you don't spend all $100 in this episode, you can have
You
whatever's
get
left.
40 left. Like, hey, we only spent 50 on Whoopi's hat, so
Yep, exactly.
maybe next week we can put like some alien. Oh no.
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 Mm-mm. But due to the 1988 writers' strike, which lasted a record of 155 days, the work on the second season was delayed and the length of it overall was reduced, which is why the show premieres in November instead of like a September return. And also why there's only 22 episodes this season instead of 26.
Oh. I feel like a season of television doesn't need to be more than 20.
Yeah, it definitely Star Trek lends to a much more longer feeling. I feel like 10 episodes for like Strange New Worlds is too short, but I also
Yeah.
get that like the scheduling for actors back in these days was like grueling. Like this was a terrible experience for all of them because they did 26 episodes and then were on break for like 2 months and then did 26 episodes. So
Yeah.
I get why they shortened it. The origins of the episode were based on a female crew member becoming pregnant in the Roddenberry's initial pitch for a TOS episode entitled Infection.
Oh boy. Of course, it's an original
Yep.
Roddenberry idea.
It was described as a female crew member is discovered to be pregnant and the growing realization it could be the larvae of an alien using her body like some insects plant their eggs in other living insects.
Yeah, no, I got it.
And then that idea was then created for Star Trek Phase 2 in the 1970s. Now, I don't know if we talked about it when we watched the motion picture, but Phase 2 is an unproduced television series created by Gene Roddenberry that was intended to be a sequel and a continuation of the original series.
I think we did, yeah.
Okay, so, but it ultimately, after like numerous rewrites and contract changes and a whole bunch of things, became the motion picture. But they still had some of the scripts, they still had some of the like episode ideas. So as soon as the strike ended in I think August or September of 88, the producers were like, okay, we need to immediately get an episode ready and film and do all this stuff. So they grabbed story ideas from Phase 2 that had been written in the 70s. And they were like, look, it's the child, this episode. And it was supposed to be the position of Ilea, who was the Delton bald lady in the motion picture. She was supposed to just be a character in the show, and she's the one who was supposed to get pregnant. And they were like, "Listen, we'll just make this Deanna, and then like this will be the episode."
Gotcha.
Marina Sirtis, who plays Deanna Troy, praised the development of this episode because she had felt she had been overlooked during the first season because both Gates McFadden and Denise Crosby kind of got more of the spotlight than she did.
Yeah, and one of them left because they didn't get enough spotlight.
Also, Gates McFadden.
Yeah.
So officially, it's like said that Gates McFadden had chose to leave because she didn't like her character development. And Gates basically gave the same reason that Denise Crosby did for departing the first season. But in reality, Maurice Hurley fired her and Rick Berman didn't say no to it.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
So that's why she won't be in season 2 is because she is fired from the show.
That's weird.
Yep. Whoopi Goldberg actively pursued a role on the series because Nichelle Nichols, who portrayed Uhura on the original series, had inspired her to become an actress.
Hmm.
So she
That's
act
cool.
Yeah, it is really cool. So she asked Gene Roddenberry through LeVar Burton to have him create a reoccurring role for her because she was a big fan of the show. And even though LeVar reached out to Gene and her own agent reached out to the production staff, it was ignored by the producers because they didn't believe it basically. They didn't believe that she wanted to be on the series. They thought it was like, sure. It wasn't until Whoopi Goldberg had called them herself, like called the production staff or Gene Roddenberry, that they
Yeah.
realized that this was a reality.
Like, oh my God, this was serious.
Yeah. And it's mainly because she was like a huge deal in the late 80s. She had won a Grammy Award in 1985 for her comedy album Whoopi Goldberg Direct from Broadway, and she had just won a Golden Globe Award in 1986 for The Color Purple. And The Color Purple was like huge back, in the late 80s. So it was like, what do you mean this like mega star wants to be
Yeah.
on this Star Trek show? Like what?
It's cool. It's cool that she wanted to be in it.
Yeah, I don't even know. That would be like Zendaya or like Hugh Jackman or somebody who's like mega popular right now.
Yeah.
And they're like, I would love to be in like Star Trek Lower Decks or like Strange New World. And they would be like, why? That's no way that this person wants this. And it's like, yeah, oh no, I love the show. I'd love to be on it. Kind of
Yeah.
thing. Her character was named after Mary Texas Guinan, who was a Prohibition era speakeasy owner from the 1920s.
That I like.
Yep. Rob Bowman was granted permission, so the director was given permission by Rick Berman, one of the executive producers, to use extra cameras and equipment for the episode. Consequently, this installment was a rare example in which a camera crane was used. And Bowman goes on to explain, as far as my involvement, I think that being the first episode of the second season, my thrust was to make sure we gave the audience something that would justify their wait over the summer for the first episode. Simply put, it was just that. Here's our audience of loyal Trekkies. I said, we must give them a great first episode to welcome them back instead of kind of just resting on our laurels. That was the agreement between Rick Berman and I, and we went a little extra on quite a bit. So that's why we get all the like shots out of 10 forward and the camera things coming down and like the shots through the like Picard is talking to somebody and we're like looking through this other thing. They went
Yeah.
kind of
It
crazy.
did feel a lot more like visually striking this episode
Yeah.
than most.
Marina Sirtis revealed in an interview that her big fat stomach, as she said, in this episode was filled with bird seed.
Okay. It's good to know.
Yep. Jonathan Frakes returned for filming having grown a beard, intending to shave it off for the new season. But during their hiatus, he appeared with Gene Roddenberry at a convention. Roddenberry asked the audience for their opinion of Frakes' beard, and the resulting cheering convinced Roddenberry to ask him to keep it, and the beard became an iconic part of the character.
Cool. That's cool. That's fun.
Yeah. And they say it, I've heard like fringe Star Trek people say it. I have never heard it outside of Star Trek fans saying it. But you know how like episode of Happy Days, Fonzie legitimately jumps a shark, and then that becomes the saying, like, "Oh, show
Yeah.
was good, but then it jumped the shark in season 6." Right?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Apparently, the phrase "growing the beard" is now when the show turns into a good, like the show gets better. I've never heard anybody outside of Star Trek fandom refer to it as like, oh, The Office isn't great, but it really grows the beard in season 3 or whatever. It's like I've never heard anybody say that.
That's a really funny reference too, because The Office gets kind of bad when Michael grows his beard.
So I don't know.
Yeah, that's funny. We don't use Jump the Shark anymore. We use what is it from Crystal Skull when he hides in the fridge?
Yeah. Nuke the fridge or whatever like
Nuke
that.
the fridge. That's right. That's right.
And then Worf's old baldric, a holdover from the wardrobe from the original series, what Klingons from that series war was showing signs of wear and tear. So Dorinda Rice Wood, Next Gen's new costume designer, made him a new one from bicycle chains and strips of leather.
Beautiful. It's not a sash
Personally,
anymore.
no. Personally, I really, really enjoy his silver one here. I don't really like his golden one that much. Like
He
it's fine
looks,
because that represents season one, so it's fine. But like, I'm not a big fan of it.
yeah, he looks a lot better.
Yeah. Oh yeah. He looks way more like a Klingon that we're used to. Yeah,
I
shit.
didn't even really notice, honestly, like how much better he looks in this episode.
He totally does. All right, let me show you some pictures. So there's that. That's a behind the scenes.
Sweet.
I think this gentleman here in the mustache is Rob Bowman. That's the director.
Mm.
Let's
Yeah, they're in 10 forward.
10 forward, which
I know it well.
there's 10 forward putting it together.
Uh, nice.
There's
What are they? Oh, that's cool.
them in the episode.
That's a cool hat.
I think the last one, yeah, there's like the actual set.
Dang, that's a full set piece.
Yep.
So the stars, is it like a canvas draped in the back that's painted, or is it projected?
From what I understand in this thing, this is like a tarp, which might be the thing up above that we can see here in the blue.
Yeah.
It's like a big piece of cloth that they have holes punched through it, and then a big blaring light is shining through.
Oh, it actually has holes in it. Wow, that's
Yeah, and
cool.
so
And the tarp is draped like at the same angle as the window, so it gives it
yeah,
like a depth. Yeah,
yeah,
that's cool.
yeah.
It's crazy, like seeing how they have like done stuff like this like in the past. And then if you've seen like what Disney has done with like their
Oh yeah.
can't the even the the cruise ship has a Star Wars themed bar, and you sit
Yeah.
at the bar and it's like this, but it's the window and it's just fully completely like animated like screen, but it looks like a window. It's like really, really crazy.
Cool.
But I appreciate much more the like building a set
Yes,
like that.
totally. Yeah, so that was trivia. And we come back and conclude the review. So Ian self-terminates. We get even more trauma for Troy.
Yeah,
I thought the light effect in her hand was kind of decent. I thought that was
I
pretty.
like that. Yeah.
We kind of touched on it. I think I kind of overall liked the idea that the alien was innocent. It wasn't a
Yeah.
terrible concept that the alien was like, "Oh, I thought this would be an interesting thing to do. I didn't really mean to like be an awful person. So sorry about that." And it's like it's messed up, but at the same time, like he's an alien, so I get it. It's like I'll give him a pass over anything else because like he's an alien. Also, he's a ball of energy or light or
Yeah.
whatever. So it's like, eh.
His actions are much more justifiable than like majority of the staff
Right. Exactly.
on the Enterprise this
Right.
episode.
I thought it was really funny that Worf volunteers to tuck Wesley in.
I like that. Yeah, it's like it's pretty good. And somebody's gonna have to tuck him in and wipe his butt. Yeah, that's just ridiculous. He's like, I volunteer. Yeah, I enjoyed that. The whole ending
Yeah.
when he goes in and he tells Picard like, "Hey, I want to stay on board." And Picard's like, "Yeah, I'm sure you do. I'm sure you do." Well, anyway, you're dismissed.
Yeah.
And he was like, "Wow, could
Totally fair.
Picard be a little bit more, you know?" Then he comes out and he's like, "Well, everybody, guess what? Wesley has just informed me." But I like that. I like that Picard makes it like, well, this is going to take all of us, you know, for Wesley to stay on board. It's fun. It kind of makes him more endearing to the crew and everybody. So I'd like that.
We start like what we were saying in season one, we get to see more character development with Picard. Like
Yeah.
the characters start to become their own thing.
Yeah, I feel like I always kind of wish a little bit that like in scenes like this, like after like Wesley like left the room, I was hoping that you would see Picard do like just a subtle like grin or something.
Oh, yeah,
You
yes, yeah,
know, like when he's not visible to other people,
yes.
just to
Nope.
kind of hint like, oh, he's actually like happy, like he wants Wesley to stay, but
Yeah.
he doesn't. He doesn't do those things.
Well, that was the review of The Child. It was an episode that we watched.
Grogu Troy, it's fine. If you get past all the child birth stuff,
Yep.
there's a lot of good things in this episode.
But before we conclude the episode, it's time to do the thing that everyone's been waiting for.
Caleb. 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 Caleb.
So, who gets the Erica Ortegas Award for being the most unlikable?
It's probably Ian.
Okay.
I don't like him. It's creepy.
Was he more creepy at 4 or at 8 or whatever he was? 10 or something?
All of it.
Just all of it.
All of it. Don't be scared, Picard. Yeah, I'm not a fan.
Well, next is the Elizabeth Cutler Award for being the most forgettable of the episode.
The school teacher.
Okay.
There you go.
Yep.
Yeah, he really came along to liking those puppies. That, of course, was after he ate the first 3.
Weren't there 6 of them in here?
I don't
know. He just wanted to experience it, right?
Puppy meat. Yeah. Yeah. He just wanted to see what it was like to eat it.
Well, this sounds like an easy one. Next is the Mugatu Award for being the best alien of the episode.
That is easy. That's Worf.
Worf.
New look, new sash. Who this?
Yep.
You know what we didn't talk about?
Oh, okay.
Is the episode was going on, and I was like, I'm kind of enjoying this. And they're like, hey, so this disease is really bad. Let's get everybody in the saucer. Because we might. And I was just like, no, I swear to God, if they separate in this first episode, I am so done. I am so out. But it was this thing that we just talked about, and they're like, hey, get everybody in the saucer. If this thing blows, we're gonna separate this. I was like, oh my God. Don't
do this.
If you separate that saucer, you've separated me from this show. I just couldn't believe that like in the first episode, like, hey, we remember, don't you forget, we can separate. I'm like, yeah, I remember.
Well, next is the Trip Tucker Award for the MVP of the episode.
I'm gonna give it to Geordi.
Okay.
He's taking his new role as engineer seriously. He developed like a brand new holding cell for those viruses.
Yeah.
He's actually doing engineer stuff. Yeah.
And you can totally tell like immediately that once LeVar Burton like knew what to do with his character, he acts like a trillion times better than he does in his first season.
Yahoo!
It's just like he really actually understands like what to do. And
yeah, it's funny. It's like I can't picture him now not as the chief engineer.
Right, exactly. Yeah, so next is the Spock Award for the best line of the episode.
That's Worf at the end when he says, I'll volunteer to do that.
I'll
tuck in the boy. Are you sleeping? Are you sleeping?
That's what I was literally thinking, was that like Wesley is like in bed, and then he's in bed, and Worf, you hear the like the chime, and then he's like, enter, and Worf comes in and he's like, I see that you are in bed already. Are you tucked in? And he's like, yes, Worf. He's like, very good. Sweet dreams, and then just turns around and like walks out the door. Like that's what I envision.
Could you read me a story?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh,
Once upon a time, there was a Klingon. He killed all these people. The end.
the end. He
I
drank.
just picture, I just picture them like finding like Wesley's body like in the morning, like all crumpled up in the bed, and he's just like tucked like so tightly into like the mattress that he can't like escape.
I have folded his sheets in a Klingon knot. It takes a warrior to break out of them.
Wesley is officially tucked. He's just dead. Oh, that's good. Good stuff.
Even better, next is the Shran Award for the best action sequence.
That is when he puts his finger in the soup. Mom, hold me. And then she like holds him, and then he looks at Picard like, I did that for fun. Imagine the other things I could do for fun.
I'm getting the love and attention of a mother, Picard. Have you ever experienced this?
My maman.
Okay, yeah, because the terrible thing is Ian can read. He can like also sense emotions.
Yeah.
So he's like,
I feel everyone's worried. He's like, oh, see, look at this, Picard. Does this remind you of Paris?
You know,
the love of a woman.
Perfect. Well, next is the NX Award for some sweet ship stuff.
That's 10 forward.
10 forward.
10 forward, good buddy.
Awarded early in the season so that you don't have to award it again.
Never mention it again. Well, no. First and last, baby. First and last. No, I know that's going to be a vital role.
No, they just built this elaborate thing and then they just tear it down.
Nah, destroy it. No, and I also know like no other Star Trek in the future spends a lot of time in like bars or anything. So that's good.
No,
definitely isn't like definitely didn't stem from 10 forward being popular.
No, not at all. Well, next is the Porthos Award for the cheesiest thing of the episode.
The fact that Ian came on board the same time that the viruses came on board.
Okay. Yes.
And he just so happens to have a specific type of radiation that doesn't harm anybody, but it makes that one virus really happy.
I think in the original script, it was like not the one from the original series from phase 2. I think the script was they get a child and it's like the radiation or something that the child is emitting is like weakening the hull of the ship slowly and they don't realize it. And then they encounter another alien being who's hostile, and when that alien starts attacking the Enterprise, it's like the hull starts to like buckle faster than anticipated, and then they put together that like, oh, the baby creature is like causing this problem.
That sounds better.
Probably, yeah.
Than having all these virus transport to, because even the way that whole thing ends is they're like, hey, so we brought all these over here.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, probably never find a cure to any of these.
Yes, and then I love it.
Okay.
But that's okay. We're never gonna stop. And then he crosses his arms like, like
beam me away. Yeah. It was really
like, thanks, buddy. And then he's just like, then he beams up.
and you're telling me that there's no other Starfleet ship that could have made that run with diseases other than a ship that has families on board like that.
No,
they're the only ship. Yeah.
Yep.
Cool. So what does the rest of Starfleet do? That I think we've talked about that before, where it's like it just feels like the Enterprise is the only ship that does anything in Starfleet.
Yeah, there's no other ships.
You're going to the neutral zone alone. You're delivering these diseases alone. I don't care what you do. You're doing it alone.
And lastly is the Enterprise Award for the best scene of the episode.
It's Wesley in 10 forward
Oh,
I like that. That's pretty good. That's a good
wow.
scene.
Okay, cool.
I like the visual of it. I like, their interaction with each other too. I think that's a good scene. I like that because Beverly's gone, the rest of the crew is kind of like taking it upon themselves to like
Yeah.
mentor Wesley.
Yeah, Jonathan Frakes does a really great job in the end part where he's like, I don't know. I don't know if I can really handle taking care of Wesley. It's a lot of work. Then he like looks at Wesley, and Wesley's like, and then it cuts
Please,
back.
Mr. Walker, please.
Yeah, and then then it cuts back, and Riker's like smiling and stuff. So yeah.
Yeah, it's good.
Well, that is what Caleb thought of the episode, and we're gonna try something a little new.
Oh no.
We're going to give you guys, the audience, a chance to have your own award ceremony. So let us know for Healing Frequencies Open, which actor was your favorite in this episode for the Popcorn Award?
Oh my God.
We'll talk about it in that series. But now it's your turn to let us know how you felt about the episode. Did you like it? Did you love it? Did you want more of it? Or do you wish that the child self-terminated and left you alone? Let us know down below.
Next time on Star Trek: The Next Generation.
Well, next week's episode is another Season 2 episode. And that episode is entitled Where Silence Has Lease. So we look forward to tackling that. But as always, if you liked the video, like it. If you disliked it, dislike it. Share it with all your friends and family and Trek enthusiasts. Subscribe so you don't miss an episode. And ring that bell so you can watch the episode as soon as it comes out. And when this video is over, make sure you head on over to Caleb's channel. Caleb has a fun prop channel. We're still covering Dragon Ball Z on his channel, so you can go and watch us talk about that. But he also has really cool props out there that he makes from various franchises, so always fun to go over there and check them out. Anything you want the people to know about, Caleb?
I should have new episode out. It's kind of Star Trek related. So a while ago, Will, because you've seen it, but I have a TV in the basement.
Mm-hmm.
And I designed it and put it in the wall to make it look like it's a display panel from the Enterprise.
Yes.
But I had to unplug the speakers to install it. So I just added the speakers back into the wall and I made it like a cool panel that matches the rest of the room.
Very cool.
Some lights and switches and stuff. So that should be coming out.
Very cool. Very, very cool.
Yeah. I broke my finger, but I still make stuff. So yeah.
For the experience.
Yep. Yeah. I use my feet. You're gonna go watch the video. It's just gonna be like my foot holding a drill.
Oh, God. Yeah, so keep a lookout for that video. That'll be fun to watch. Yeah, we hope you like us returning for season 2. We'll be back for another long extended stretch. We thank Ed Mark Starr as always for being a Patreon supporter, and we thank everybody else for all your comments, your likes, your subscriptions, and for following us along on our new Trek adventure. But until next week, Caleb, send us out.
Computer, if you need me, I'll be in 10 forward.
See you guys. Perhaps some Ovaltine?
L14, perhaps.